Let's return to that breaking news this morning out of Israel. Reuters news agency and Israeli media reporting that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has now dissolved the country's war cabinet. Our senior correspondent Margaret Evans is leading a CBC News team reporting from Israel right now. She's at the Kerem Shalom crossing right on the Israeli-Gaza border. So, Margaret, we go to you for analysis of this move by Netanyahu. It was expected after Benny Gantz resigned. But tell us a little bit more about the announcement and the decision and what its implications are.
Well, it was expected, as you say, Heather. It was something I think that the Israeli Prime Minister was trying to avoid. That is the resignation of Benny Gantz and, of course, Gadi Eisenkot as well. These are both former military men who joined the emergency government in those days after October 7th. So the announcement that the dissolution of the war cabinet is not a surprise. It does shift things a little bit politically. People are wondering what it means for Netanyahu's nationalist religious coalition partners who've been putting a lot of pressure on him. They were actually demanding to be given access to be able to be on that war cabinet, in the war cabinet. This is seen as somewhat of a rebuff to them, although the government is saying it's not going to change anything. Sensitive decisions is how Israeli officials are describing it, will be taken by the Prime Minister and smaller groupings and some discussions with the wider security cabinet. We actually are down here at Kerem Shalom because the Israel Defense Forces allowed a few journalists down to talk about aid distribution into Gaza, but it gave me the chance to ask the Chief Israel Defense Forces spokesman Daniel Hagari what impact he thought this would have. He said absolutely no impact. He said we have the defense minister, we have a change of command. The cabinet makeup comes and goes, said basically wouldn't have an impact on Israel's prosecution of the war. So I think what we'll be watching for is what the impact is politically on Mr. Netanyahu, whether or not these ministers in his coalition, Itamar Ben-Gvir, hard-right security minister, whether they'll be demanding more of him. They've been demanding a much more aggressive military campaign in Gaza. That, of course, has made Washington unhappy. And this week is a week that protesters here in Israel have designated as a week of major protest against the government of Benjamin Netanyahu. They want to see him resign. They want a deal, a ceasefire that will see the Israeli hostages released. And they're trying to bolster as much pressure as they can this week.
Margaret, where you are, right there at the Kerem Shalom crossing today, one of the main entry points for aid into Gaza. The Israeli military saying it's now enacting daily tactical pauses to allow more aid in. So what are you seeing there, and what are you hearing in terms of allowing for more humanitarian relief?
Well, we were shown a lot of pallets of food sitting around. We were given a briefing by the Israeli military as well. They say this will make a difference in the amount of aid that is allowed into the Gaza Strip or gets into the Gaza Strip. They say they're not blocking that aid distribution. They throw the blame on the international community, saying they're not able to distribute it once it gets in. So this is their suggested solution to that. It is creation of a corridor, if you like, and they're guaranteeing the corridor, the safety of that corridor for aid trucks to get from the southern end of the Strip, which is where I am right now, further north. It's a tactical pause, they say, between early morning, about 8 p.m. at night, but it's only for that strip. And it did cause quite a bit of controversy here because those far-right cabinet ministers that I was talking about they didn't like the idea of this tactical pause. Prime Minister Netanyahu said he hadn't been told about it by the Israel Defense Forces. They say that's not true. So there's a lot of confusion around it. One of the things we were seeing here was an attempt by Israel's defense forces to get across the message that it is not stopping the fighting, that despite this corridor that it's going to create, fighting will continue. They will continue to go after Hamas, including at Rafah, which of course is not far again from where we are now. So a lot of confusion around it, but it is, not to forget, a real problem for Gazans. We have the international community again saying that unless they get this together, we're going to be seeing those reports again of mass hunger and potentially starvation.
Margaret, thank you so much. Margaret Evans, as she leads the CBC News team and brings you reporting from that region. Thanks, Margaret, for the live analysis there of the breaking news.